32 states
Live.
in.
We're live. Okay.
Hey everybody, Greg Harrelson here with my co-host Abe Safa, and we are here for another episode of the Myrtle Beach Real Estate TV, and really excited to talk with you. Thank you so much, Abe, for continuing to join me on these. And
Pleasure. Yeah.
yeah, if it wasn't without you, I don't think we'd ever make it on camera, because you're the technology the guru between us for sure. So let's just go through it. One of the thoughts that I have in my mind, and I was talking to the CEO of Century 21 around the world. So he's a fairly important guy when it comes to the real estate industry. He's got a good position, and he and I were talking the other day, Abe, and he said a statistic that I wanted to share. He says 32 states around the country, 32 states are experiencing a net gain in terms of a migration report. So 32 states are actually experiencing a net gain when it comes to people moving from other states into their state. That's fine, but the other thing, and I don't know if you know this or not, Abe, but he said South Carolina is ranked number 3 on that list. So I don't know who number 1 or 2 is. I knew New Jersey's either 1 or 2, which I thought was a little bit odd. But what he explained to me is New Jersey being so close to New York is one of the ones that's losing the most people. But so many people are just crossing the New Jersey line. And so they're still staying in that same area, but just going to the New Jersey state line. So they're one of the top 2. But we in South Carolina are experiencing some of the biggest gains, which means people are getting a little frustrated, whether it's winter, whether it's COVID, the various things that are out there. People are making moves, and South Carolina is benefiting greatly. And I know Myrtle Beach is benefiting greatly. And I think it's one of the reasons why we see so much traffic all year round now. It's a lot of people here. I know you and I were talking about migration reports at one point, and I don't know, is this the same information that you've seen?
Yeah, but not the same exact data, but something comparable. They are calling this the Great Migration. So there's the big shift around the country where people are relocating.
Okay, yeah.
I saw a stat the other day, like 15 million people are supposed to be moving out of their own area next year.
Yeah.
So there's a big shift. Populations are changing within cities, within states. And there's some ramifications, even political. I don't want to get into too political, but
yeah,
there's going to be states where they're going to lose some congressional seats. And they're going to add congressional seats based on their population change.
Sure.
What's happening right now. So changes are happening for sure.
Yeah, there's a lot going on. So, and when we talk about inventory levels in Myrtle Beach, it's kind of interesting, right? Because if you think about it, if people are moving to Myrtle Beach and not necessarily as many people moving from Myrtle Beach, then that can contribute to an inventory problem, which is what we're experiencing, because there's more demand for the properties that are here. Population's growing. That means more people are moving down. There's more demand, and there's there's very little inventory. So pushing prices up, but also actually kind of hindering some of the sales. The other thing that I wanted to mention, just switching gears before we get into the numbers, is the whole COVID thing is starting to heat up. Again, it doesn't matter what position you take when it comes to that conversation. I'm not going to take a position, but when it comes to what we're experiencing on the ground level is, in the last week alone, probably the last 10 days, we have seen 2 things occur. Number one, there's been a significant decrease in the number of buyer calls, buyer leads, internet traffic, or not internet traffic, but just leads in general that are calling to set up showings and wanting to look at property. There's also been, so that tells me there's less people are calling to look at properties right now. And a lot of those people are people that are from up north. In addition to that, there were people that were on the books. I've heard a lot of real estate agents talk about having appointments already on the books to go show property in next week or the week after or whatnot, somewhere around Christmas. And these people have canceled their plans. I'm not, again, this is not going to hurt the market and crash the market by any means, but just want to keep everyone abreast of what's going on. That in some particular areas, they're locking down, they're getting serious about COVID, and they're afraid to travel. And we're seeing that in the show up in the area of demand. Any thoughts on that, or have you had any experience with that, Abe?
Yeah, we definitely. I felt that personally with some of my listings. I've seen traffic go down some on
Yeah.
the showings. I was talking to a client earlier today. He has a home in Highlands, North Carolina, and he was talking about how North Carolina is starting to tighten things up. I think restaurants now have to have be closed and have everybody out by 9 p.m. And then there's curfews between 10 p.m. and 5 a.m. I think so. So yes, I mean the numbers are starting to scare people. And cities and states are starting to tighten up a little bit just to get. Hopefully, this is the last hurdle, with the vaccine getting close. But who knows? I mean, it is what it is. We deal with it.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Again, everyone deals with it differently, and what we're trying to report is how it shows up in our real estate market, and that's how it's showing up. Is there's been some cancellation and maybe some lower buyer traffic in the last 10 days. We'll continue to keep our eyes on it. What it probably means, and do you remember the numbers? Remember when we were locking down, and then I don't know if it was May when we kind of opened back up and we had this like massive surge of sales. If you remember that, we're probably going to be in a situation where people will pause, but not necessarily stop. So they may pause their plans, which could mean there could be another surge somewhere in the future. I think the difference this time, though, is when we see that surge, there's nothing for sale. So, back in May when this happened, I think it was May when that happened, anybody that was on the market at that moment, they got the benefits of that surge. Right now, there's not that many people on the market. So they may miss out on those benefits, and these buyers may end up coming down here and just have nothing to buy. So we'll see how that happens. I do anticipate some sort of surge-like activity. I'm just hoping we find the inventory to support it.
Yeah, absolutely. So as you're talking, I'm going through my notes and seeing how far back I have numbers, and I have numbers right here from May 13th.
Okay.
So that'll be interesting to look at when we're comparing once we pull up the today's numbers.
Yes.
And compare the two.
Yeah. Well, why don't you go ahead and pull up those numbers? Let's go ahead and get right on it.
Okay. All right. So single family homes right now, it's still very strong. 50.57% of all homes on the market right now under contract. So let's roll back the clock and go back to May 13th. May 13th, that number was 34.6%. So as you said, I don't know when, like in relation to when COVID started, when things opened back up, I can't remember exact dates, but that's kind of, going back a few months now. So 34.6% was the number back in May. Mm-hmm. So very, very strong still. A lot, demand is still out there, even though we've seen showing slow down a little bit. There's still people buying homes right now for sure.
Yeah.
Let's look at resale numbers. Resale numbers, we'll see it's at 46.06%. Now this was an interesting number, 28% back in May. So significantly stronger. There was 3,241 homes on the market back in May. 922 were pending.
Mm-hmm. Wow. Mm-hmm.
New construction numbers, 55.09. And again, I'm not talking about last week. Last week the numbers are very comparable. We're going back to May just to kind of see in case things do shut down soon, and it starts to bottleneck like it did back in the spring. What we could see happen. New construction, not as significant of an increase because they was still very strong back then. It was 42.9% back in May. Now it's 55.09%. Mm-hmm. Looking at the condo market, again, this number surprises me week after week. 36.9% of all condos are under contract. Back in May, that number was 20%. So
almost a doubling. Yeah, I mean that's kind of a little bit of exaggerated, and I don't want to do that. But I mean, it's nearly a doubling when it comes to the amount of properties that are under contract. I mean, it's quite extraordinary, to see that. And I've been selling real estate here for nearly 25 years, maybe 25, maybe even 26 years. And I've never, besides that, back in 2005, 2006, when we were kind of really dealing with that bubble, besides that, I haven't really seen gains like this in such a short period of time. And it's usually not just the normal market trends that will produce gains like this. It's usually something else that's happening. So when you look at migration, You look at, the issues with building supplies, the cost of building, the slowing down of the builders of being able to get product up. You look at COVID. There's a lot of like things that are uncommon. And so I think those extraordinary events are kind of creating an extraordinary market.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that, Greg. Moving on to the oceanfront condos. So this one here was very significant. 23.67%. There's still 339 condos. This is just oceanfront only that are on the contract right now. Very strong number. Back in May, that number was 11%.
Wow. So over 100%.
Yeah. So back in May, on May 13th, there was 160 condos under contract. We're at 339 right now, so more than double, which is kind of counterintuitive because back in May, I mean, May is usually a very strong selling month.
Yeah.
Right? So typically
absolutely.
we should see higher sales volume in May than we would this time of year. But that's just a function of what's happening right now in this market.
Yeah.
A bit of demand.
Impressive.
And then looking at land, our final number, 16.71%. I don't have a number for land back in May. I wasn't tracking it yet because it really wasn't significant. Because I think up to that point, we were only like, it wasn't even a number worth tracking because it wasn't going anywhere. It stayed somewhere around 7 or 8% until I started seeing some major movements. And that's when we started tracking this number as well.
And the number 16.71 that we're looking at right now, how does that compare to last month? Is it staying stable?
Yeah, to last week.
Last week. I'm sorry.
Yeah,
Thank you.
still, last week it was 16.44.
Okay. Wow. So it's actually, so it's creeping up. That's pretty much flat. But I had heard somebody else giving a report, and they were talking about land was down annually. Land sales were down, and I was kind of confused because I don't see that land sales are down. I see it trending up, not actually going down. So I don't know what they were looking at when they were reporting that, but this is what we see.
Well, let me be clear on what these numbers are. So this is what's on the market right now and what's pending out of those numbers, right?
Yes, right.
So it has nothing to do with how many have actually sold.
Yes.
So technically, the number of lots that have sold could be lower.
That's correct. Yeah, that's right.
The inventory being lower.
Yeah, and I was referring to, they were actually talking about prices. And so when I was like, I just didn't understand that. And again, I don't know what, maybe they were comparing it to something that I wasn't listening carefully, but I can't imagine prices are down. Would you think?
Yeah, I can't imagine if they are,
Yeah.
but I mean, that's something we'll look up next week and show the change in price relative to last year.
Yeah, and maybe that can be some stats that we touch on next week as we talk about the price increases. Right. And what would be neat is to see the correlation between the increase, the numbers that we're seeing increase. Like you take this 16.71, and then we look 2 months ago, it was lower. It'd be interesting to see in that same period of time how the prices increased at the same period. So they can see the direct correlation between supply, demand, and pricing.
Absolutely. Yeah. And a lot of agents look at closed sales. I mean, that's an important number for me. I like these numbers. Because to me, this is a snapshot of what the supply and demand looks like today.
Yes.
Right. Regardless of what happened last month or all year long. Like right now, if you own land, in my opinion, you want to know what the snapshot is today. To me, this is a function of supply and demand. And when you see a high number of pending relative to what's out there on the market, to me, that's a good indicator that's a strong market.
Yeah, I agree 100%. Okay, well, good. Well, hey, this is another week gone by. Myrtle Beach Real Estate TV is, committed to making sure that we give you the most accurate data. Abe and I were talking as we formulated the idea to do these broadcasts. One of the things that we're committed to is making sure that at least in our area, we do our part to inform the consumer as to what's going on in the industry. We want the Myrtle Beach consumer to be the most informed consumer, around the state or even in the country. And the way that we do that is bring you unbiased, valid information, data, bring it right to you on a weekly basis. So, Abe, thank you so much. If you all want to reach out to us, if you're thinking about selling, you can see our cell numbers down at the bottom. You can call us, you can text us. If you're not thinking about selling, but you'd just like some updates or want us to email you some information on what's going on, feel free to text us, make that request, and we'll make it happen for you. Okay, Abe. Thank you so much. All right, bye-bye.